Hi, y'all, and welcome to tonight's live stream. There is a lot going on in the background of the Sarah Grace Patrick case. There's a new attorney, there are new charges, there's a ton of discovery, and a delay of today's scheduled arraignment. I drove to the courthouse for y'all, more than an hour away for the hearing, hoping to get a glimpse at least of all the players. But when I got there, the hearing had been postponed. So we do have a brand new attorney, as I mentioned, a judge who says he does not grant continuances very easily. And we are just 7 weeks out from the trial date. What on earth is going on? And what can we expect next? So what I want to cover tonight is what are we waiting for in this case, why the delay, what the delay meant, and what to expect next in this case, and what may be going on in the background. So quick overview. On the morning of February 20th, 2025, that's this year, 16-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick called 911 and said that her little sister had found her mom and her stepdad, James Brock and Kristen Brock, shot in their beds. Now, that was already utterly shocking. But next, we learn that the person arrested and charged with the murders is none other than Sarah Grace Patrick herself. And to make matters even stranger, when police did not arrest someone for several months after the murder, she allegedly contacted true crime content creators on TikTok and asked them to cover her case, the case of her parents having been murdered. But police say she was actually the one who committed the crime. So that's the case. Now, Sarah Grace Patrick is in jail currently. She has been denied bond, and so she's waiting for trial. She is hurtling toward trial in January, and frankly, it seems like it is a long way away from anything being ready for trial to me. We'll talk about that. Today, what happened was a calendar call in Judge Hightower's courtroom. So to give you an idea of what that means, it's where a bunch of cases are going to be called in front of the judge. So the judge will go through a list and call them one at a time, and people will stand up and say whatever it is they have to say for their particular case. Sometimes it might be a while. They might have a motion or something. It could take a while. And sometimes it's just quick, and you go through every case. That's what calendar call is. It's a bunch of cases. It's not a trial. It's just the judge and the attorneys with some of the parties, and they're just dealing with the matters on the way to trial, but it's not yet trial. So what was supposed to happen today, according to the docket, and I'll show it to you. Let me share my screen. Okay, so this is Peach Court, which is how Georgia does its e-filings and stuff. And you can see right there, it still says arraignment today -11/17. So it says that there was going to be an arraignment today. Now, an arraignment means that the charges are going to be read to the defendant, and the defendant is going to say guilty or not guilty. And that's really all it means. It's not anything more significant than that. It's just, briefly guilty, not guilty. And so it's usually pretty quick. But it didn't happen. The entire thing was postponed today, despite the fact that you see it right there sitting on the calendar. Now, actually, Sarah Grace Patrick had already been through, I'll just leave that up for a minute. Sarah Grace Patrick had already done this once. And you can see from the docket, if you go down, let's see, I think it's page 2 of the docket. She waived of arraignment, and you can see it right there. I think the reason there were 2 is because new charges were added. She initially, if you can go up here to the top and see what the charges are, you see there are 2 counts of malice murder, one for each of the people killed, the mother and the stepfather. Malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of firearm or knife during commission of or attempt to commit certain felonies. When they started with the charges against Sarah Grace, they started with felony murder and aggravated assault, and they have since added malice murder and the possession of firearm or knife. They've added those 2 charges. And so my assumption was what was going to happen is a plea related to those new charges. I don't know for sure. You can't really tell from the docket exactly when everything was added. They list the offense date, but not the date of the charge for it. So that's just my guess as to, what was planned and what I imagine will still happen unless they waive it. So one of the critical things in our state that happens when you file, I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. One of the critical things that happens when you have that moment when someone enters their plea is it triggers 10 days for the defendant to file some of the most important motions in the whole case, like motions to suppress evidence or discovery requests. So, for example, if there was some critical piece of evidence that Sarah's team thought needed to be kept out, they would have 10 days to do it. So let's talk about why this would get postponed and what that means for the case. Does it mean something big is going on in the background? Like, is a plea deal about to go down? It's possible, of course, but I don't think that's too likely. For one thing, we're in the very early stages. They're really just exchanging discovery at this point. But at this point, I think it's kind of too early for that. And I see that. First of all, I need to say hello to everybody over here in the chat. And Laza, thank you so much. A member for 12 months. That is awesome. I am really appreciative that you have been a member for such a long time. Laura is a new member. We're glad to have you, Laura. And Bama Queen has been a member for 21 months. That is awesome. That is really a long time. Thank you so much, Bama Queen. Appreciate that. And Dial In for Mildred reminds me of something that I've forgotten to say, which is, would you please hit the like button on the video and subscribe if you haven't. We would love to have you. It's totally free to subscribe, and we would love to have you back for more videos. So Dial In for Mildred, member for 4 months, and I'm very appreciative of that. Okay, so let's talk about, I don't think it's probably a plea deal. Here's what I think is more likely to happen. As you can see from the docket, it looks like they have either added or replaced the attorney from LaToya Williams to Arnold Ragus. And it would probably be pretty likely that they would want to give him a chance to review anything that's happened. He may have had to be elsewhere. It may not have been something where this was a free time for him. So we do know from something that Sarah Grace's father said in an interview with Law and Crime, he said that the family really wanted to get a private attorney, but those are really expensive. In a case like this, it honestly can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a private attorney in a really big case. And I think this one would qualify as a really big case. It's frankly past the ability of most people to afford. I would go so far as to say that. And so as far as what it's going to cost, few families would be able to do that. And so I imagine that they looked at that and decided they really needed to go with the public defender. Now, public defenders are notoriously overworked and underpaid. And I'll talk for just a minute about that. But and I think that leads sometimes to people thinking that they won't get good representation. At the same time, public defenders are in the courtrooms day after day, and they're very skilled at what they do and highly committed to it. So it's not necessarily a bad decision for her family to go with the public defender. It might have been better, and certainly the other probably would never have been really affordable. So you can see in the notices, there is, for the hearing that was in September, the notice went out to just LaToya Williams' attorney. She's the managing attorney of the Georgia Public Defender Council. And then the November one went out to her and then to the new attorney. Probably it's just in-house stuff where they're assigning the case over to him. It probably doesn't mean she's off the case, LaToya, or anything like that. It just means this is going to be the new attorney who will actually be handling the trial. And so I'm guessing it's just kind of adjusting the workload for everybody. So, and I did want to tell you a little bit in 2023 about specifically her new attorney. There was a lot of discussion in Georgia about how overworked public defenders are. And they had caseloads of 400 cases, which ultimately meant that there were a lot of defendants who were just waiting for months in jail with no representation. And that was obviously something of great concern to the legal community. And Arnold Rojas told a Fulton County judge that there were not enough public defenders. He said, we're doing everything in our power to add more. It's not happening as readily as we would like, and I apologize for that. And he said he was paid to travel around the state and to represent defendants when the agency could not get someone, but it was just not sustainable for him to personally be in multiple places at the same time. Now, that same year, the Georgia legislature passed something that you would be shocked even was the case. But the way it worked at the time was prosecutors were paid one amount and public defenders were paid less. So what does that mean? That means that anyone, especially people really skilled at their jobs, they're going to go over here, right, to the prosecutors where they're going to get paid more for doing the same type of work. And therefore, it was really tough to get people able even to take the public defender jobs. So for that reason, they passed law that said the public defenders have to be paid the same as the prosecutors. You can't pay them less than that. So that was a change here in Georgia in 2023. So to do a quick 4-point update of kind of what I see happening in the case. One is I think a possible reason for the delay is just the new attorney either needed more time or couldn't appear at this time. I don't think it means anything significant in the case. We do know, secondly, that bond has been denied. That puts pressure on everybody to get moving to trial. There is a girl, 17 years old, sitting in jail, and unless something changes, she is staying in jail until the time for the trial. So there's the pressure is on to give her the speedy trial she is entitled to under the Constitution. Number 3 is the discovery. I did a little chart for you, which I wanted you to see, and I'll have to, let's see if there's anything else I need to show you in that. No. Okay, so I can remove that from the stage. You have to give me just a minute. And I have a hard time talking while I'm doing stuff. I know there are YouTube creators who are really good at that, but I'm kind of a one track at a time person. But I will see what I can do to keep talking. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that screen and I am going to share this other screen. There we go. This is, so what I did was I just looked into what are the things that we can see the prosecution producing to Sarah Grace Patrick. And this the beauty of this is it gives you a tiny window into what exactly law enforcement has done to investigate her case and where are they going. And so I wanted to talk about a few of them. We'll just go real quickly, but the 911 audio call and the logs, obviously important. And why is it important? Because Sarah Grace Patrick made the 911 call. So it's especially important there. Cell phone extractions. We don't know how many cell phones were taken, how many will be extracted, but you could certainly presume that Sarah Grace's would have been, and probably the mom and the stepdad as well, maybe other people's as well, but at least those 3. Then they have timeline summaries. Number 5, really curious what this is, audio recording. And it was a number, 6 folders and 49 additional recording, but we don't really know audio of what. It seems like it's separate from the cell phone. So interesting. I don't know what it is. Also photos, again, can't know for sure. Those could have been photos from the phone. Maybe that's overlapping with the cell phone extraction. Now, I thought this was really interesting. I did not know what Avigilon, that's my guess, recording was, but I looked it up. That's a security system. So that suggests to me one of the things they've done is get a security system, either from the home where Sarah Grace was living or maybe from a nearby home. And I'm guessing they're looking at whether anyone else came into the house or left the house. Obviously, the suggestion, if no one did, is that it had to have been someone inside the home who committed the crime. And that's probably what they're going to argue. You've got patrol statements and patrol car videos, and I'm guessing that would be things that Sarah Grace said to officers as they came out and looked at the house, saw the crime, and were talking to her about what happened. That will be a huge fertile ground for the prosecution if there are any contradictions in what Sarah Grace said. If she said one thing on 911 and another thing in the patrol car, if she got confused at any point, the prosecution will point to that and say, here we have evidence that Sarah Grace Patrick not only committed the crime, but now was attempting to cover it up and hide it. They've got scene scan file. That's probably something where they did a scan showing where things were, measurements, that sort of thing. Scan documents, no idea on that. Social media, internet. I just have to believe this would be unbelievably important ground in this particular case. You've got a young defendant, 16 years old, and they just flat use social media, right? And so I think that is something where the prosecution will be able to look and find things. What they will find, I have no idea, but I would think that would be really important to them. And then interviews and a narrative. Now, there were two different sets of what looked like production, one on the 16th of September and a whole nother set on the 2nd of October. But it really seemed like pretty similar. Like, I don't know why they had to put in twice, but for example, that recording from the security system was 17 folders both times. The social media internet was 22 folders both times. A few of them were different, but that's sort of where it seems to me that they're going and they're looking at cell phone. They're looking at Sarah Grace's own statements. Some things we can't really tell what they are, like documents. That could be literally anything they pulled from the house, photos, and then they're looking at social media and internet. And that seems really important. There may also be evidence from the scene itself. None of that is sort of described here unless you count scene scan files. That makes me think that they may not have completed all of their production yet, because I don't really see a lot in here that would suggest that it has anything to do with what was actually discovered at the scene, or maybe even what expert witnesses would say. And that's all stuff that should be produced. So that a lot of those things that I showed you there, that production, a lot of that in the end won't come in. It will be culled down, and in the end, just relatively few exhibits are going to come in. But the state is required to produce anything that might be exculpatory. That means make it less likely that Sarah Grace Patrick is guilty or is convicted. They have to produce that to Sarah Grace because that's constitutionally required. There's a line of cases called, starting with the case of Brady. Giglio is another one, and those cases have sort of set up what the responsibilities of disclosure are for the state. All right, so huge final question is, will there be a trial in January? And we have right now two contradictory things going on at once. You've got a trial date that looks really difficult in light of the fact that you have the whole case hasn't been pending very long, and you've got a lawyer who seems pretty new to the process, and you've got it seems like everybody's in the middle of discovery. The idea that trial could start 7 weeks from now seems, and all the holidays could happen between now and then, that seems really tough to me. That it's a tough call. But you've got a judge who has said he wants to try this case. He wants to try this case fast. You've got Sarah Grace's need to have it tried because she is in jail while presumed innocent, because that's how it is in our country. So those things are all in contradiction. So right now, I am trying a new system, by the way. Hopefully the picture is clearer than before. And I'm going to try playing a video. You will be my sounding board. do you find that you can see me after the video plays? Because that is a big problem we have had in the past. So let's see how it works. I mean, the video will continue, but if I look like a blob afterwards, we will know that my experiment has not worked. Hopefully it will.
Calendar call will be 12/16, and I will be prepared to try your case on January 5th. All right? Now, that's incredibly fast. State and defense. I'm completely aware that y'all may ask for continuance based on those time frames. I'll need y'all to do that formally. There's a lot of interest in this case from both sides, and defense was right. Justice needs to be done, and no matter what decision was made, someone is going to feel as though justice was not served today. That's just the truth. If I would have granted bond, there would have been a large group that said justice was not done. If I deny bond, as I'm doing today, there's going to be a large group that says justice was not done. That I can't avoid. But what I can do is give this young lady speedy justice. And that's my purpose.
So he's stating up front that he wants a quick trial, that he's going to be ready in January, but he is acknowledging up front that the lawyers may not be able to do that. And it strikes me as really unlikely that they will be able to do it. And he's saying either or both sides may come to me and ask that.
Again, my role is to make sure the law is followed, and I do the best I can to facilitate that. So I will be ready. If state or defense, if y'all have issues, because I'm fully aware that issues come up with discovery and with cases that are oftentimes are out of either of your control. And for the best interest of the state or for the best interest of your client, you may need to ask for continuance. The state that's in my courtroom quite often, Ms. Williams, they know I'm very reluctant to give continuances. So if y'all need that, I need y'all to file a proper motion, and it's likely we will have a formal hearing on whatever requests for continuances need to be heard, if they're needed to be heard. If not, I'm going to stick with this time frame. Again, she's in custody, so she takes priority on my trial list, as everyone knows. Also, her age. Defense, you brought to my attention that she's in isolation, so again, it's her top priority for me to move this case as quickly as possible. Your calendar call.
Let's stop that, and I will pull that out. And the moment of truth. Do I look like a blurry blob, or is the video still clear? We will see whether it worked or not. Okay, y'all will let me know that. But let me go ahead and tell you kind of what happened. So the judge has said he doesn't like giving continuances. He doesn't want to do that. He prefers not to. And he's going to stick with this time frame unless there's a formal motion. And even if there is, he's going to have a hearing about it. And he's going to push everybody to trial as fast as possible. He's saying a couple of reasons. One is, of course, she's in jail, but that is often the case, certainly in a trial like this where somebody's accused of murder, but also because she is so young. She's just 17 and she's being kept in isolation. And he's saying, we need to hurry with this. So he is pushing trial fast. January seems like a stretch to me personally, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happens fairly quickly because the judge does seem committed to it. So I want to give a special shout out to our first 5 in the chat tonight: Desert Rose, Michelle B, Bama Queen, BGOG, and Blue Day 9. Special shout out to y'all. And I will do a few questions. We won't do too many tonight, but we'll do a few. Mo has a comment off topic, but can you cover Dema Tower trial? I don't know that trial, but it's never off topic to suggest a case for me to cover. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. I like it when y'all do that for me. Annie K has been a member for 21 months. That is so awesome. I am very grateful to you and to Bama Queen. Both of y'all have been members for 21 months. So we must be hitting 21 months tonight. So thank you. And I also want to thank our mods, Mama Pinks and Marlon, who have been with us that whole time and continue to be with us. All right. So let's see. I did forget to say to put question marks at the beginning, but hopefully I'll be able to spot if anybody has a question. And if so, put your question marks at the beginning. It is blurry. What? Life is way easier. Yes, I like to think of it as an impressionist painting, and at my age, what's wrong with that, right? Couldn't we all use a little filter? You know what I'm saying? So, but that is disappointing. It's not blurry when you've got a split screen. Well, all these various things have been tried. So I have the next thing I'm going to do if this doesn't work. So we will have to round robin that and see what exactly I'm going to do. But your comments are greatly appreciated. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any questions. I appreciate y'all watching tonight. And I will look forward to seeing y'all later in the week. I don't know that I'm going to go live every night. Wednesday and Friday, but I am going to be putting out videos all week. So I will look forward to seeing everybody soon.